wasn't really favourable, but I went out. I was hoping to put a bit of a post up, but it didn't happen. I found that coming back in to the dolphin sanctuary, I spent about an hour to travel about 1 kilometre, and that was primarily because the wind, which I wasn't aware of until I came around the island into the channel. They call it Powerline Channel, and it was absolutely flogging the wind, which ended up resulting in me spending about an hour to get 1 kilometre, I'd say at the most. And to say I wasn't stuffed at the end of it, I was. So the reason for today's video is that I went out and I found these bad boys at Anaconda, and I was able to pick this one up. It's a 34-pound thrust, and I picked it up for 219 bucks. So it's an electric motor. On top of the 219, I've spent another couple of $100. I've bought a 50 amp hour LifePo battery that I'm still waiting on. But once I get all the bits and I put it all together, I'm going to show you how I did it. So it might be of interest for people. This is going to go on my 11.5 Nexgen Kayaks to Fish kayak. And I'll just step you through some of the things I've done in relation to fitting this and modifying the actual water snake electric motor. So let's see how we go. So this in effect is the motor unboxed, taken out. I must say the base of this is actually quite large. Sorry about that, but the base is quite large, and it's a bit heavier than the smaller water snake that they produce. But I wanted this one, the 34-pound thrust, because this is a really good bracket. It's a good solid cast alloy. It's got a pin that you pull up to actually tilt the actual motor, and I think that'll be really good. Sorry, you push it down, and as you can see, if you push it down, you can then adjust where the actual motor sits on angle, which I thought was quite good. The only thing I'm trying to work through at the moment is how to have this tilt up if I do hit something underwater on the way back in. I don't really want to have it locked as secure as it does, for fear it could damage the prop. So anyway, the second part was that I had to remove the top, decapitate it. So I have actually decapitated it, and basically what that meant was there was these 3 screws. There's 1, 2, and a third one here. They're all Phillips head, and this one here that actually feeds through. This bolt actually sits in like that. That's just a hex head screw in there. I undid those. I was able to then pull this washer. This washer was sitting around this the actual prop, not the shaft, but the actual motor shaft, and that's supposed to be the water seal, which I wouldn't say it's great, but it's supposed to have done the job. Inside the motor there was 4 coloured wires. We have the positive and negative. Here's the positive, the negative. These 2 we're not sure what they actually are for at the moment, but given that I've bought a separate control unit that I'm going to be using completely separate to this, this will be obsolete. So I'm going to put that back in the box and keep that in case I want to revert. But they do look like a great little motor anyway. Like, it's got 5 forward speeds, and it had 3 backward speeds, and it's also got the extendable handle. But given that I want to mount this on the transom of the kayak, this wasn't going to work for me with the 11.5. I don't want it sitting on the side of the boat or the kayak and controlling it from the side. I want to actually have it sitting on the transom out of my way, the motor, and the battery will sit somewhere behind me, and I want a control unit sitting right next to me that I can control variable speed, forward, reverse, and have a safety on it, which these don't have. There's no safety attached to this, so if I was in the kayak paddling along, or sorry, propping along, and something happened while the motor's running and I ended up out of the kayak, I'd be saying goodbye kayak and I've got a problem. So that's the reason why I've gone to a different control unit. And when I get that, I'll do the next stage, and then I'm going to stitch all this stuff together, and hopefully it'll give you a good video. I'm back again, just to sort of continue with this video I was doing in relation to the fitting of a water snake to my kayak, my 11.5 Nexgen Kayaks to Fish kayak. So basically I had to work out a way of mounting the motor, and the transom mounts that are out there, a lot of them are 3D printed or something similar, and I couldn't be bothered, to be honest, looking for anything that might fit the 11.5. So I decided to make my own. So this is what I've actually made. This is just out of a bit of angle iron, which I've welded up, and then I've put some hardwood into here. And the Kayaks to Fish 11.5 actually comes with all these mounting screws embedded into the actual body of the kayak. So as you can see, there's 12 all up. There's 4 here, 4 here, and 4 here. So you can have a multitude of things actually attached to the kayak. But this here is pretty strong. It's fitted on there now. It's not going to go anywhere. So I'll show you what it looks like with the motor on it. So just give me a second. I'll come back. So this is it with the motor actually attached. This motor is a 34-pound thrust motor. I've actually put the prop on it, just to have a look, for people that haven't sort of really seen these set up. They're pretty decent sized propeller, 2-bladed. They do come with a shear pin and a little tool that enables you to tighten up this here, so it's nice and tight. I actually do plan on getting a spare to take with me. One of the other things I was a bit concerned about was whether, once I've put the motor on here and I've actually got it into this position, as opposed to the position of being up like that I could actually drop my rudder. So here's the rudder on the 11.5. Now it does drop very easily. I've just set it up so that it will drop, and the easy way around it, if you are sort of struggling to figure it out, is just turn the rudder slightly either way, and set your depth right, and it actually clears the actual motor body very easily. So it's good. I'm not going to have to worry about that. I've actually set it so it's just below the hull depth, the prop, and hopefully that will stop any cavitation that might occur off of the prop. Just coming up the top here, I've actually now fitted a piece of 25 electrical conduit and elbow, and I brought the wires up after I'd cut the head off, which I showed before at the start of the video. I found the easiest way is I've put an Anderson plug on here, and what I'm going to do, I've then just run the cabling here, so I can actually just connect it pretty quick and easy when I need to. And I didn't fix it to this shaft here because if I want, I can actually unplug it here, take the motor off of the actual transom mount, and the cabling will just stay in place. What I've then done, I've actually put a 50 amp hour, just give me a sec. I've actually found that a 50 amp hour battery fits perfect into the hull here. I've actually got it into a deep box here as well, and it actually fits in there really well. I've then got my 2 cables. They're pretty heavy duty, that I've picked. Got that stuff at JCar. I've then actually run that through under here, under this section, and I've brought it out here and I've put an Anderson plug in there. Now, you might ask why. What I elected to do is, when I removed the head off of the water snake, the control unit, I've actually then elected to buy one of these. So this is a For those that aren't familiar with them, and I wasn't until I started looking around and checking out things, Kayaks to Fish do sell these. I think they're $170. I like it because these actually come with a safety mechanism. I'm actually going to mount this, so I'll show you what I'll do here after I've just explained this a bit more. These are a real monkey see, monkey do. They come with fittings, these fittings here, which do easily unplug. So you can actually fit your cabling in, and they're a waterproof connector, so you don't have to worry about when you're out in the water, which is excellent. They're pretty light. What they do, they have a voltage meter which will give me my meter of my battery voltage where I'm sitting at, and I've actually connected this is the battery lead that's going to go, that does actually go, sorry, this is the motor lead, this one, yeah, this is the motor. So this is the motor one. I've put a 50 amp fuse in there in line, and that's what goes back via that loom back to the motor. I've put a fair bit of cable on here to give me a bit of flexibility where this is going to sit. I still have to get some more cabling just for the battery, and on the end of this I'll have the two cables connected into these fittings and an Anderson plug, which will then plug into this one when I want to connect my battery up, and that will all sit under this housing, which the Kayaks to Fish 11.5 comes with, which is very neat. So I don't have any actual battery outside, and I have elected to have two batteries. So I've got this one here, which sits just behind the seat. That's for my motor, that's 50 amp hour, and then up the front I'll have this one here, which is a 20 amp hour, and that's going to sit in my front hatch here. Sits in here inside the hull. You might laugh about this box. The only thing I could find to fit this battery, the Atom Power 20 amp hour LiFePo, was a Systema box which I found in, I think it was Kmart or Big W, somewhere like that, and I've just sealed it up. Look, it's not 100% waterproof, but it's going to provide a bit of protection for the battery. So that sits in here, just forward of my bag that sits in here, and that will be for my sounder. That way I won't get any interference between the two. Now just back to this box here, one of the reasons I really liked this was because it has a safety feature, which is a magnet which sits in here, and you can attach to the magnet to yourself, and then if you happen to fall out of the kayak or anything similar to that, here's the magnet. So I've put it on a leash here, which I'll attach to myself, the leash. That sits in there, and the motor will not operate without this magnet in place. So that's pretty clever, and it just comes off. The only thing I'm sort of thinking, is that going to come off too easy, or is it going to sit there nicely? So it doesn't seem like it's got a lot of, I suppose, magnetic strength there, but we'll soon see. At this stage I'm planning on putting this onto this side with a star mount that I'm going to mount on this somehow on the bottom. I haven't pulled this box apart yet to have a look inside, but they've got here a FPV power warranty is void if removed, so I'm not sure what I'll do with that. But what I'm planning on doing with the Kayaks to Fish 11.5, again, one of the things I've found is that by using this Railblazer mount here and the little track that your seat sits in, I've put a mount in here, and that mount, I'm going to put a star mount in there, mount this on top, and that'll sit right next to my seat, which I think should work quite well. I don't think it's going to get in the way of my tackle box here. I'll be making sure it doesn't, put it that way. If I need to slide it forward a bit further on the track, I will, but that's the plan. And these boxes are really good in that you have your forward, your neutral and reverse switch, and then you've got a variable speed switch. So instead of having like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this gives you a variable speed all the way through the range from stopped to flat out. And that should give me a greater battery life, I believe. So anyway, that's what I've got so far. Hopefully you enjoy that video, and hopefully it's given a bit of insight. I must say, these plugs, before you play with them too much, and before you fix the, I'll just pull one off, before you actually fit your cabling in to the fitting, just play around and make sure you got it right, because these can go in a couple of different ways, and you want to make sure you get the right power lead into, whether it's your motor or your battery, into the plug, rather than trying to swap them around a bit later. But they are a really good plug, very well set up. They've got a couple of seals. You've got an O-ring seal up here, which is a compression seal, and you've got the O-ring there, and they're pretty quick to connect together as well. So that's it, one hand. So as you'll see, here is the FPV powered up. So I've got the, as you can see, the motor and the battery. You've got your 4 wires, connected them all up. It's showing my battery's got 13.1 volts, which is great. I've flipped this switch here, is your forward and reverse. So it's reverse, neutral, and forward. And then turn it on. And you'll see here we've got a prop turn. So the beauty is with this is that you've got a variable speed. You'll be able to probably hear the, I'll turn it down, I'll put this down here. Hopefully you can see that. Turn it off, turn it on, up the speed. Back off. And then the safety, I'll pull the safety, so there's it running. You got your safety and it's off. So yeah, that's pretty well it. So hopefully you'll enjoy that, and that'll give you a bit of an insight into the FPV and the water stake fitting for a 11.5 Kayaks to Fish kayak.